This is Joe.
Okay, can you hear us now?
I hear you, yes.
Okay.
Adam, why don't you go in the other room?
Okay.
Is that me? Check, check, check.
I think it's because Adam's in this room.
Just have her do it then. Just have her do it then. because this is.
Adam, or David, I can't hear you. Say it again.
Okay, I'm going to come back here a second. Just you and Joe.
Okay. Joe, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Good.
Yes, I can hear you okay. All right. Okay, we are going to try this once again. Every week we like to check in with Joe Lindsley from Ukraine, and I hope the connection is okay. As I was sharing a little bit earlier, President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned another large barrage of Russian airstrikes. 4 people are dead in a day of drone attacks that happened yesterday, and we now know that 30% of Ukraine's power stations have been taken out by Russian strikes, and there are blackouts in many cities. Joe Lindsley from Ukrainian Freedom News is joining us now on the WCCO Facebook and WCCO Twitter. I'm also broadcasting it on my Instagram. And Joe, you sent us pictures earlier of your view. Can you share with us where you are, if you're safe, and currently what's going on right now?
Yeah, well, Jordana, great to see you. I arrived in Kyiv yesterday morning via the overnight train from Lviv with one of my colleagues from Ukrainian Freedom News, Jean-Baptiste, a French reporter. We are on a mission the next 2 weeks to travel the country west to east to show Ukrainian resilience, Ukrainian democracy, and how Ukrainians are still devoted to winning. Because I think the next 2 weeks, especially, Putin wants the world to be terrified of his nuclear threats, and we want to show them, why fighting for freedom matters and why we should not be so afraid of Putin. So we took off took the overnight train. We arrived in Kyiv yesterday morning, really just as these terrifying drones from Iran hit 1 block from the train station. I was coughing all day yesterday. We were caught in the smoke. These drones are they're the size of a small car. They move very slowly. And I'm sorry, there's a strange noise here. I don't know.
That's okay.
That's me. 1 second.
That's okay. We got to keep you safe. So if that's kind of
everything's fine. So they make the sound of a lawnmower, really. So you hear these lawnmowers in the sky, and this is the new menace. They're difficult to shoot down. And yesterday, both police officers and civilians, because since the beginning of the war, Mayor Klitschko has made sure that civilians are armed. And there were scenes of people holding rifles, like almost like out of the scene you would see like in the old Western United States, out of their windows to shoot down these drones. At least 5 people were killed, including a couple. The woman was pregnant. They were found hugging each other just right near where I was at the train station. Today, this happened once again. In fact, this morning, now there's a new level of seriousness. When there's an air alarm, you have to be more careful. And this morning, I'm in my hotel. I chose not to go to the shelter, and I just sat watching out the window, this beautiful blue sky day, waiting for the drones to come our way. And Ukrainians are communicating throughout the country when we have communication. And fortunately, we've had that still. And they say, hey, there's sightings of drones. They're on the way to Kyiv. And you have 5 minutes until they get to your city. In this case today, they hit another power station on the left bank of Kyiv. And so some of the cities without power and electricity. This is the new, I think part of it's designed to terrorize the people and to make them scared. Fortunately, the weather's still pretty warm, but when this happens in winter, it's going to be a very difficult winter. On the upside, Ukrainians are very resourceful. Almost everyone I know already has wood stoves. They have, everything they need to keep themselves fueled through the winter.
Now, I mean, we know that the bridge from Crimea to Russia was taken out, and these drone strikes and up strikes are supposed to be Putin's retaliation for that. How is the morale? Because we're seeing the amping up of these kind of strikes? And are you getting what you need? Or Ukraine is what I'm asking. I know that Vladimir Zelensky asked France for more weapons. Are you guys getting what you need? Or, these new strikes on Putin's efforts, has that damaged morale, because these drone strikes are really hard to fight against?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, for example, today Greece announced they're sending some weapons. I forget exactly what it is to Ukraine, only because they're receiving new weapons from Germany. So they're keeping the new weapons for themselves, which is great. But the people who are actually doing the fighting right now against this menace are using secondhand weapons. That's been going on throughout the war. I think it's something important to point out. But also with that bridge strike, I forget the date of that now. It was 2 weeks ago. And we don't quite know what happened. And Russia's so-called retaliation to that bridge strike was 2 days later. After months of ineptitude on the ground, and even with their missile strikes, all of a sudden they had this incredibly well-planned, coordinated attack on Ukrainian infrastructure where we couldn't even communicate with each other throughout the country. It was absolutely terrifying, as I described last week. There's no way something like that could have been planned in 2 days. And so, and I talked to a few experts here and in America. More and more, I think that the bridge was sabotaged by the Russians. So they could, because what we see is, like, if I listen closely to some of the rhetoric in the European capitals and American media, there's people are getting afraid of Putin's nuclear threats, and they're starting to say, Ukraine, you got to calm down. Ukraine, don't attack the Crimea Bridge. The narrative has shifted to start blaming Ukraine, and the Russians are very good with chess playing, very good with this type of propaganda. But there is no way that operation from last Monday, because they even had small power substations in little villages. There's no way they could have planned that in 2 days. So I think we need to step back and be very aware of the power of Russian propaganda. Also, on these nuclear threats, I don't think Russia can make many moves without Beijing. And I want people to sort of think about that, because Beijing does not want nuclear war. They control their country. They control their people. They have money. They have growing economy. They don't need this. And I don't think that they would permit this from Russia. And so, while I want, the nuclear stuff is concerning. I mean, I have iodine pills in case we need it, but I think the real menace is what's already happening now. These daily attacks, even as the attacks on infrastructure happen, you still have continued shelling of the frontline cities, Mykolaiv, Kharkiv, Nikopol, and this continued fighting on the ground. So Russia is. They've reformatted because they seem to be on the run a bit, and now they are. It's scary, Jordana. It's scary.
You talk about the nuclear threat, and take China out of the equation. What about Iran? How much can Iran affect that? We know these drones came from Iran.
Yeah, I mean, Iran is an awful actor here, and this is why, I mean, the women and the schoolgirls of Iran are as brave as the Ukrainians, and they're doing what the Ukrainians did. They're trying to do what the Ukrainians did in 2014. And here, these are the stories I'd like to amplify, because I think those who are terrified of Putin's nuclear threats, they're basically telling Ukrainians, just calm down in your freedom thing. Why can't you just, maybe just another 70 years of, Russian rule like it was in the Soviet time, just calm down with that. And here we have to say, what are our values? Is the first question, and it's the same question with Iran. These women want to be free. They lived under oppression, and we don't even know the full details of the oppression that's happening now. So first, look at our values, and secondly, say, can Russia really go nuclear? And I think you have to look at India more so than Iran, but India and China, nuclear powers. They have nuclear war does not suit them at all, and I don't think Putin can really move without China. And I think if he went nuclear, and when I talked to some American experts, and this makes sense to me, China probably has already threatened Putin. We will destroy you if you even attempt to go nuclear. So I want to, because we have to keep this balanced so we don't get afraid. And that's, Jordana, especially as I was in the smoke yesterday, and today I was, it was like waiting. In fact, I was listening to the Townes Van Zandt song, "Waiting Around to Die," as waiting for the drones to come. And then meanwhile, every Ukrainian I know, we're texting each other to boost each other's spirits. A friend of mine, Yuri in Lviv, said, "We have to be strong." He said, "I don't know why, but we have to be strong." And this is, and there was a woman, an old grandma, while these evil, Iranian machines are flying over the sky, and she's playing an accordion, playing the Ukrainian national anthem in Kyiv on her balcony. And this is the only way to really resist, is with this cheerful defiance.
Mm-hmm. Cheerful defiance. Just before I let you go, Joe, I know you're in a hotel right now. Do you feel safe, and how are you keeping yourself well?
Well, I think mainly it's a solidarity with everyone here. I would say the past, I've had a very, very bad feeling about this whole trip throughout the country. But I really feel the need for it, because I think we're starting to lose some of the narrative, and then Putin's propaganda is taking over. So I knew we had to do it. It's difficult. There's a new level of fear and terror, and I really realized that the Kremlin wants to win, but more winning for them they're diabolical. They want absolute destruction of Ukrainians and anyone that stands with them and anyone that stands with free people. We see Beijing doing this with Taiwan. We see all these things happening right now in the world. But it's good versus evil, and there's something about, the missiles and rockets are scary, but something about these drones, these kamikaze drones, well, I feel like it's good. Evil is facing us, and it's scary, but people keep joking. There's still music, and people, you try to keep living through all this, and that's the best way. Because as soon as you let it get into your mind too much, then you begin to lose. And I think that's what Putin is very good at, is a psychological game.
Mm. Well, Joe, we're praying for all of you and the people of Ukraine and everyone at Ukrainian Freedom News. I want everybody to know that you can go to Ukrainian Freedom News and you can help Joe's cause. Not only is he reporting, but he's also serving a humanitarian effort everywhere he and his colleagues go throughout the country. We will be watching you. We'll be following you on social media. I follow him at JP Lindsley on Twitter and on Instagram. I encourage people to do that, and also try to make donations at Ukrainian Freedom News. Joe, thank you so much, and we will check back in with you soon, my friend.
Thank you, Jordana. And every day this week, we're going to be sharing real conversations from Ukraine with the world. So UkrainianFreedomNews.com. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you. We appreciate you. Adam and I will be back in a minute.